Today we're looking at Practice Test 2, Math Calculator section, only heart of algebra questions, and there are 11 of them. Number 1. A musician has a new song available for downloading or streaming. The musician earns 9 cents each time the song is downloaded and 2/10 of a cent each time the song is streamed. Which of the following expressions represents the amount in dollars that the musician earns if the song is downloaded D times and streamed S times? So first off, if we identify each time, that phrase each time means we are multiplying. 9 cents times downloads, 0.002 times stream. To make money, we're going to be adding the two together. We can rule out B and D because you don't have to spend money when your song is streamed. From here, it's just a matter of lining up the correct coefficient with the correct variable. For download, it's 9 cents, not for streaming. Number 3. L is equal to 24 plus 3.5 m. One end of a spring is attached to a ceiling. When an object of mass m kilograms is attached to the other end of the spring stretches to a length of L centimeters as shown in the equation above. What is m when L is 73? So in this equation, L is here on the left, and we can replace it with 73. 73 is equal to 24 plus 3.5 m. We want to get m by itself. We follow the order of operations in reverse. So we're going to subtract 24 from both sides. Over here it cancels out. We're left with 49 is equal to 3.5 m. If I divide both sides by 3.5, that's where I get 14 is equal to m. A. Number 6. When 4 times the number x is added to 12, the result is 8. What number results when 2 times x is added to 7? So the first equation, 4 times the number x added to 12 is equal to 8. Comes from our first sentence. That's translating what those different words mean. The next one, 2x plus 7 is equal to what? So on the left here, if we want to solve for x, we can subtract 12 from both sides, and we get that 4x is equal to a negative 4. We could solve for x, however, notice that we're looking at a 4x and a 2x, and we have an even number here. Another option would be to divide both sides by 2, giving us 2x is equal to negative 2. This allows us to directly substitute for 2x what 2x is equal to, giving us negative 2 plus 7, which is just 5. Number 8. In a video game, each player starts the game with K points and loses 2 points each time a task is not completed. If a player who gains no additional points and fails to complete 100 tasks has a score of 200 points, what is the value of K? So we begin the game with K points, and we lose 2 points every time a task is not completed, which happens 100 times. And our final score is 200. This is where I start. I can combine like terms. I get K minus 200, since 2 times 100 can be simplified, is equal to 200. If I want to figure out what K is, all I have to do is add 200 to both sides. K is equal to 400. Number 9. A worker uses a forklift to move boxes that weigh either 40 pounds or 65 pounds each. Let X be the number of 40-pound boxes and Y be the number of 65-pound boxes. The forklift can carry up to either 45 boxes or a weight of 2,400 pounds. Which of the following systems of inequalities represents this relationship? So up to 45 boxes, that's simply X plus Y will be less than or equal to 45. It can be 45 at most. Then I know that the X boxes are 40 pounders and the Y's are 65. So I'll put 40X plus 65Y. And the weight limit here, it has to be less than or equal to 2,400 pounds. So if I look at the answer choices here, we see some mistakes, such as C, that x plus y would just give you the number of boxes, is less than or equal to 2400 when in fact we're looking for the weight of the boxes. So we switched these two accidentally. That's why C is wrong. And if we look at D, we see that 2400, the weight, combined weight of the boxes, is used for both inequalities, which is not correct. And lastly, for B, we are dividing by the weight of the box for some reason instead of multiplying. A was correct. Number 12, on January 1st, 2000, there were 175,000 tons of trash in a landfill that had a capacity of 325,000 tons. Each year since then, the amount of trash in the landfill increased by 7,500 tons. If Y represents the time in years after January 1st, 2000, which of the following inequalities describes the set of years where the landfill is at or above capacity? So we're trying to identify two pieces of information. How much trash we started with, and how much the landfill is increasing per year. The one that is increasing per year gets our variable. So we take our different values and we line them up like this. We see that 175,000 is our initial amount of trash. Each year we add a certain amount, and 325,000 is our maximum capacity. So they want to know, when is the landfill at or above capacity? Most of these inequality questions will ask, when is it below capacity? So the difference here is that our inequality is facing this direction. And if we look, you can see that D is our best answer. 21. A project manager estimates that a project will take X hours to complete where X is greater than 100. The goal is for the estimate to be within 10 hours of the time it will actually take to complete the project. If the manager meets the goal and it takes Y hours to complete the project, which of the following inequalities represents the relationship between the estimated time and the actual completion time? So to approach this problem, let's take two test cases where, for example, Y is equal to 105 and Y is equal to 95. These are the number of hours that it would take to complete a project. We know that X has to be greater than 100 and we want it to be within 10 hours. So let's choose for X, for both of these, something like 103. If we plug these numbers into A, B, C, and D, which ones start to make sense? Does 103 plus 105 is less than 10 make sense? No. 105 is not greater than 103 plus 10. 105 is not less than 103 minus 10. But if we look at D, our fourth option, and we plug in these values, we see that we get 2 or negative 8, which 2 is less than 10, and negative 8 is greater than negative 10. That's the correct one. 25. A graph of the linear function f has intercepts at a, 0 and 0, b in the xy plane. If a plus b is equal to 0, and a is not equal to b, which of the following is true about the slope of the graph of f? If we start with 0b, there are two possibilities. Either 0b is going to be a positive number, or 0b is going to be a negative number down here. I'm talking about the y-intercepts. We know that a plus b has to equal 0, so when we have our y-intercept that is positive, then our x-intercept, or our a value, has to be negative. Similar thing, when our b value is negative, our x-intercept has to be positive. So if we look at these two possible lines, what has to be true about the slopes for both of them? They're positive. I could also solve this algebraically by using the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This would give me b over negative a. And now I know that a plus b is equal to 0. If I wanted to solve this for a, I can subtract b from both sides. I get that a is equal to negative b, and I can substitute here. So b over a negative b, or just b over b, which is 1, thus a positive slope. 28. In the xy plane, ABCD is a square, and point E is the center of the square. The coordinates of points C and E are 7, 2, and 1, 0, respectively. Which of the following is an equation of the line that passes through points B and D? Well, one thing that we know about squares is that their diagonals are perpendicular. This has to do with the way that the corner angles are 90 degrees, so they are split into 45 and 45, and we can use the interior sum of a triangle to recognize that if this is 45 and this is 45, our missing angle has to be 90. So that being said, we can first calculate the slope of line AEC given a couple of points, and then from that slope we know we're going to take the opposite reciprocal. So we'll start with these points here, and we'll take 0 minus 2 over 1 minus 7, and we get negative 2 over negative 6, which just leaves us with 1/3. If we want to take the opposite reciprocal, we change it to 3 over 1, and we put a negative, and that's just negative 3. Which of these options have a slope of negative 3? Well, it's not going to be C or D. That leaves us with A or B. Then we have to figure out our intercept. Well, if we look at this line, whereabouts does it cross the y-axis? And I would say somewhere around here, which is a positive 3. This B value is not a positive 3. And at a glance, this one might not look at either. But once we distribute, we get negative 3 times x minus 1, which is negative 3x plus 3, because a negative times a negative is a positive. That's our right answer. 34. In one semester, Doug and Laura spent a combined 250 hours in the tutoring lab. If Doug spent 40 more hours in the lab than Laura did, how many hours did Laura spend in the lab? The easier equation to come up with is that D plus L is equal to 250. The total number of hours that Doug spent plus the total number of hours that Laura spent is 250. The second equation is a little bit tougher to write. When it says Doug spent 40 more, you want to write D plus 40. But the correct way to write it is actually D is equal to L plus 40. The number of hours that Laura spent plus 40 is equal to the number that Doug spent. From here we have a systems problem. I could use substitution. I could replace this D with everything that it is equal to, and I get L plus 40 plus L is equal to 250, or 2L plus 40 is equal to 250. When I subtract 40 from both sides, I get 2L is equal to 210, and when I divide both sides by 2, I get that L is equal to 105, which fits how many hours did Laura spend in the lab. If I got how many hours Doug spent, I would have to plug it back in and find the answer. But this one is the correct answer for Laura. 35. A is equal to 18t plus 15. Jane made an initial deposit to a savings account. Each week thereafter, she deposited a fixed amount to the account. The equation above models the amount A in dollars that Jane has deposited after T weekly deposits. According to the model, how many dollars was Jane's initial deposit? Disregard the dollar sign when grading your answer. So yet again, we are looking at y is equal to mx plus b. So depositing an amount each week tells us, keyword each, that we're looking for slope. That's going to be 18. That's how much we deposit each week. The initial deposit would be 15, or our starting value. That's all they're asking. The answer is 15.